Today we're going to take a closer look at one of the Brooklyn's most impressive civic buildings, Brooklyn Public Library at Grand Army Plaza. It's considered to be one of the finest Art Deco structures in the city. We will first try to explain why the style was chosen and later show how the library was constructed. We will examine its most striking feature, the soaring 50 feet tall columns framing entrance door. We will also try to explain why the library drew some of its influence from classical Greek and Egyptian cultures. Designed in 1941 by Carl Paul in Art Deco style, the columns stand out for their glowing bas-reliefs. Art Deco was a popular decorative style in New York between the two world wars. Some historians link the origins and the growing popularity of Art Deco to the discovery of King Tut's tomb by Howard Carter in 1922. Archaeological findings of ancient Egyptian artifacts provided artists a sort of inspiration to combine ancient elements with modern style. The columns at Brooklyn Public Library are designed in Egyptian style called pylons. A pylon in ancient Egypt was used as an entrance to a temple. Here, the two pylons function as an entryway to the world of knowledge. One local resident praised the columns as a work of architecture, saying that the monumentality of columns matched the height of the library and the columns on pedestal around the plaza. The Art Deco architecture is also popular in New York at the time because it broke free from an earlier elaborate style of Beaux-Arts. In 1920s and 1930s, public looked to more simplified forms. The plain, undecorated exteriors of the Brooklyn Public Library offers just that. When people look at the library from a distance, they notice its open book shape. The wings of the library are spreading over Flatbush Avenue and Eastern Parkway, suggests a binder of a book. The open book semicircular form of the building, which is designed to invite public, echoes the oval shape of the Grand Army Plaza. These contracting geometrical shapes to one another show main trait of the Art Deco style. An art critic, Louis Mufford, held a high regard for the design, writing in 1940, quote, "The bright limestone walls, the handsome boat in front of the central mass glittering with gold, the good proportions, the absence of dreary columns all create a sense of happy expectation," end quote. The library's entrance facade is curved inward. The two columns on each side of the entrance are squeezed firmly against the Indiana limestone, giving an appearance of a bookshelf. Standing close to the columns, the viewer feels its immense impact, although the sculptor didn't intend to make the viewer feel overpowered or intimidated by the soaring columns. The intention is actually the opposite. The library facing the plaza is free of grand entry stairs. The piers at the entrance are constructed just above the street level so that the visitors don't have to climb too many steps to go into the library. This makes it effortless and convenient for all the Brooklynites to access the building. In 1935, German-born American sculptor Carl Paul is commissioned to design the columns with low relief figures. Paul is provided with an opportunity to update the look of the library. He understands that the library demands a new makeover that would appeal to the contemporary eyes. He then decorated two columns in 1941 on each side of the entrance with sculptured figure in low relief. The theme of the figure is evolution of arts and sciences. Note the detailed artwork on the columns. The reliefs are shallow on two-dimensional surface. The artwork is so flat that if figures weren't glided, one wouldn't even notice them. In essence, the reliefs and the columns themselves become one entity in harmony. The neoclassical influences are seen in the stylized figures of the columns. Notice, for example, the female figure on the lower portion of the right column. This is Pallas Athena, the Greek goddess of wisdom. She is symbolizing development in arts. Next is a man with a scroll representing architecture, a sculptor with a statuette, and a painter holding a brush. The decoration on the columns are meant to express the building's function as an institution for knowledge and learning. Indeed, because the entrance of the library is seen and used most frequently by the public, the artwork on the columns is designed to educate and inspire anyone who passed by them. It is interesting to know that the massive size of the columns represented sculpture with a problem. The pylons were shaped in such that only the left-handed carver could cut the figures. For this reason, Carl was forced to designate a left-handed sculptor to cut the inner curves of the left pylon. Louis Mumford declared the Grand Army Plaza branch of the Brooklyn Public Library to be better than the New York Public Library and the Library of Congress. While this may be an exaggeration, the structural theme of the library is one of the finest Art Deco buildings in New York. The construction of the Brooklyn Public Library dates back to the early 1900s. In 1906, the Beaux-Arts classical architect Raymond Almirall is chosen to design the building on the Place of Reservoir site. 5 years later, the construction began. During the interwar years, the country is hit by the Great Depression. The city was unable to raise money, and the construction is put on hold for several decades. Responding to the delay, chief librarian Milton James compliments the library, saying it is, quote, the second oldest uncompleted ruin in the world, the first being the Tower of Babel, end quote. In 1933, the city decided that the library should be remodeled to give more modern look. The new architects, Alfred Morton and Francis Kelly, are called in. The new architects abandoned most of the original plan but kept the existing foundation and steel skeleton to save extra costs. In November 1938, the Board of Estimate grant sum of $1.88 million, and the construction on the project resumes. The result is one of the most impressive Art Deco structures in the borough. In 1997, the Landmarks Preservation Commission designated Brooklyn Public Library as its landmark site. It reports that the library is, quote, an impressive of both civic pride and public embrace. The design is widely praised for being both impressive and practical, end quote.